I am so glad that you were able to join me today for Read Aloud with Chanel. So, last week we had a chance to read Are You My Mother? And this week we will introduce a new character, Pete the Cat. I am so excited. Once again, my name is Chanel Rigby of Free Up Caribbean Movement, and Free Up Kids is the community initiative of Free Up Caribbean Movement. Today, we are going to read Pete the Cat's Family Road Trip. I hope you have your snacks, sit tight, get nice and comfy, and here we go. We like to first start by looking at the cover of our book because we know that the illustration gives us some idea about the topic of the book. We know our title already, Pete the Cat's Family Road Trip, and then we can also look at the spine of the book to get more information. Again, we see that the title is listed there. In the back of the book, there's some descriptive information about what you might find in the book. Also, other people's opinions of how they felt or what the book made them think about. This book is written by Kimberly and James Dean. Here we go. Pete, Bob, Mom, and Dad are going on a road trip across the United States. Dad loads the bags onto the roof. Mom picks the music. Bob and Pete grab the bike. The first stop is Niagara Falls. They ride a boat to see the waterfall up close. Pete loves pretending he's the captain. Niagara Falls is located between the border of New York and Canada. The cool thing is there is a Niagara in New York and a Niagara in Canada. We'll take a look at a map right after we're finished reading. This boat is called Cat of the Mist. Next stop is Boston. The family walks the Freedom Trail. They take a photo in front of Paul Revere's house. Historic and cool, says Bob. Boston, Massachusetts. Take note of all the little places that Pete and his family is visiting. We'll get to see it on a map really soon. Now they are off to a new city. It is New York City. The family takes an elevator to the top of One World Trade Center. Look, it's the Statue of Liberty, says Dad. So over here, they're in the World Trade Center. And over here, we see the Statue of Liberty. Now, I am in New York City. I wonder where you are. When you get a chance, sit down with your family, look on a map so that you can locate where you live in relation to New York City. And if you're in New York City, hi, neighbor. In Savannah, they ride a riverboat. Pete orders a slice of peach pie. Yum, says Pete. Life is good. So, this is the Savannah Queen. It's a riverboat, and they are in Savannah, Georgia. So, they've left New York City up north, and they've gone down south to Georgia and had some tasty peach pie. What's your favorite kind of pie? I really like apple pie. When they arrive at Key West, Pete meets a six-toed cat. Ernest Hemingway Home and Museum. Wow. Your paws are groovy, says Pete. Right back at you, says the cat. So, They are in Key West. So, Key West is a series of small islands right off of the coast of Florida. So, there's a really long bridge that people drive on to reach those islands. Key West is in Florida. So, we've gone further down south to Florida. Where do you think that Pete and his family will go next? I like this one because I really like to take trips. New Orleans is famous for jazz music. The groovy jazz music makes everyone dance in the streets. So show me your favorite dance move. You ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Yes, jazz music, saxophones, and lots of other instruments, drums. There's the sax or the trumpet right there, actually. Very cool. And they seem to be in a parade on the streets. Everyone is excited about the next stop. But then, the car gets a flat tire on Route 66. Don't worry, says Mom. We can't let this ruin our trip. Mom and Dad changed the tire. They did that together. Isn't that cool? Soon, the family is on their way again. So, we left Florida Keys. We came back up and we moved over to Louisiana because that's where New Orleans is. It's in Louisiana. Now we get on to Route 66, and Route 66 is a highway that runs through many of the states in the U.S. because it's going to take us back up north, but we're going through the Midwest part of the country. And again, we'll see that on the map, okay? So here's a little sign for Route 66. Do you see that dry, dusty road in the Midwest and the cactus all around? Very cool. Let's see what happens next. Mom parks the car. Look over there, says Bob. It's Mount Rushmore. What a sight to see. The family stops to take a photo. So Mount Rushmore has the faces of some very important people carved into the mountains. But look very closely at this one. I think that one's a cat. At Yellowstone National Park, everyone unwinds. So it's a park, they're outside, they can relax, they can breathe. The park is so pretty and peaceful. Bob sees bison snacking on grass. Right here, here are the bison. Check out those horns, says Mom. Suddenly, Old Faithful shoots water high into the air. Cool, says Pete. Old Faithful geyser. So a geyser shoots water from underground way up into the air. It's quite a sight to see. You might have to talk to your family about making a visit to Yellowstone National Park. Bob thinks it's time to try something different than a car ride. So they're getting a little tired riding around in the car. So guess what they choose to ride on? They found some horses. The family goes on a horse ride instead in Utah's Monument Valley. So now we are in the state of Utah. So we're getting a little closer to the west coast of the U.S. In Los Angeles, L.A., Pete checks out the Cat Hollywood Walk of Fame. So there are little paws in little stars on the Cat Hollywood Walk of Fame. Pete puts his paws in the paw prints. I feel like a star, he says. Very cool. When they get to San Francisco, so they are in California, They all squeeze into a cable car. So they're riding the little car down the hills. And in the corner here, you can also see the famous bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. Pete stands in the front and says, toot toot, of the little car as it goes down the hill. And it's called the San Francisco Cat Cable Car. Everything is cat for the cat family, right? Let's see where they go next. The last stop is Seattle. So they are in Washington. Now, there are two places in the US called Washington. There's Washington, D.C., where the president lives in the White House, but there's also Washington on the other side, which is right above California, right? Right in the corner. And they are in Seattle, Washington. They go to the top of the Space Needle. Wow, says Mom, this city is pretty at night. So they get so high that they can see everything beneath them, all of the lights, all of the beautiful lights. Finally, it is time to go home. We saw so many cool places, says Bob. What was your favorite part of the road trip? Asked Mom. So you can think about that too. What did you like? What was your favorite part of this entire road trip for Pete's family? Pete thinks long and hard. There were so many neat sights. The best part was being together with you all, says Pete. He really enjoyed being with his family, and now they're home, safe. So, Pete, Bob, Mom, and Dad took a trip around the United States and saw so many cool things. I love the fact that Pete was so excited to learn and explore. They rode a horse, they drove in the car, they took many walks, they were in a park, and they saw many different monuments. And at the end, Pete just really appreciated being around his family. Now, family looks different for everyone. Sometimes it's grandma, grandpa, uncle, aunt, cousins, brothers, sisters, maybe a mixture of many different people. But we know that family are the people who love us and take care of us. So if you have a family member around you right now, give them a big hug and a big kiss and let them know I love you because you love me too, right? So before we end, a few things I want to highlight here. I did tell you that we were going to take a look at a map, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at our map here. So we started off in Niagara Falls, right? So that's where New York is in the United States. Then we went right down to Boston, Massachusetts. But guess what? We went back to New York, but this time we went to New York City. So we have the northern part of New York over here, and then we have the piece of New York City here. We went down to Savannah, Georgia, where we saw the riverboat. We went down into the water on a long bridge to the Florida Keys. That's where we saw the Ernest Hemingway Museum. We left Florida and we went back up to find New Orleans. That's the place where we danced and we heard some jazz music. And then we went up to South Dakota, across the Midwest on Route 66 to Mount Rushmore, where we saw the faces, the cat face carved into the mountainside. We crossed over to Wyoming, another state in the US, and we saw Yellowstone Park, and that's when we saw the geyser, Old Faithful, shoot up out of the ground. We left Wyoming and we went down to Utah into Monument Valley. And that's where Pete and his family were riding the horses. We left Utah and we went to Hollywood. That's where the family walked across the path where they saw the little stars and the paws, right, for the famous cat. We left Hollywood and we went to San Francisco, California. And that's where we saw the Golden Gate Bridge, right? Yes, and that's where they rode on that little car. And Pete said, toot toot. And we ended at this part of the US, Seattle, Washington, all the way up here, leaving from Cali. Remember, I said it was above Cali. We went above, we went to Seattle, and that's where they had the beautiful view. And they were able to see the city and all the lights. So we left from over here and we went all the way across. And once again, remember, Pete the cat told us that the most important and the best part of that whole trip for him was family. Now, I hope that you enjoyed the read aloud today with me, and I hope to see you next week on January 31st for our last book of the month, and that book will be Big Bird's Big Bad Day. I wonder what's going on with Big Bird. Let's check in and see how he's feeling next week. See you at 12 o'clock. Right here, same place, same time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, be well, and stay safe. Bye-bye.